Alright, what's going on, guys? It's Capper the Villain. So today I'm going to be doing a beat making tutorial. We're going to be using a sample and then building the drums and 808 around that sample to make a full beat. I'm not going to be doing a melody from scratch in this tutorial, but the point of this is basically just to show you guys how to structure a beat and get everything going if you're just starting out, like a more simplified version. Like, we'll get into melodies and stuff like that some other time, but I'm just gonna jump straight into it here. So if you guys aren't familiar with Splice, it's like a sample and loop website where you can go and download like different drum sounds. You can download different loops, whatever, for honestly whatever kind of music you're trying to make, whether that's like electronic music, soul music, hip-hop, R&B stuff, it's all in there. So yeah, I would definitely recommend go checking that out, especially if you're starting out making beats and you haven't really done it before, you don't have much experience, then I would definitely go with that. That's a really good resource for you guys, and they're all royalty free too, so feel free to use those in beats that you're going to be putting on BeatStars or TrackTrain or any other beat selling website, even your own personal one or YouTube or whatever, even like releasing your own songs too. Anyways, we're gonna get into this. So I have from this pack here this little loop. Just go ahead and play that for you guys. Okay, so that's the loop, and it's at 130 BPM, and the key is F sharp minor. So what we're gonna do, I already have the loop loaded in here. All that you would do to do that is simply click on this and drag it right here. So then I'm going to go ahead and drag that into the playlist. So it's a pretty long loop. It actually splits into a few different parts here. So like there's this first section which I kind of played a bit already. And then it kind of switches up a bit. Okay, so that first part would be great for the actual beat, and that second part would be good for like an intro / build up kind of thing. So what I'm gonna do actually is just Control B and copy that over. Then I'm gonna click on this here and hit make unique, and then I'm gonna call this intro melody. Change the color on that. And then also another thing you want to do, this is your playlist here, which where you do all your mixing and everything. Sorry, that's the mixer, not the playlist. This is the playlist. So this right here is the original melody. So you're going to take that, click on it, make sure it's selected. There's different ways of doing this. I'm just going to show you guys how I do everything usually. So I'm going to right click here and route that, go to channel routing, route selected channels to this track. Okay, so there's our first melody and second melody right here. Boom, do the same thing, you're good to go. So then we're going to drag this, and the first thing we're going to do is make sure that this little thing here is turned off, so stretch is off, and then double click on this intro melody where it says resample here, make sure it's on resample, and then we're just going to look for the part where the melody switches up. So it's right there at the 9th bar. So then we're going to go here and just drag that over. Okay, so that's perfect. That's like the good intro loop. So now you're going to do the same thing with that original first melody. Make sure it's on resample. And all we're going to do is drag that back to the 9th bar, because that's all we need. That's where the melody kind of separates and changes pitches. So that's good to go now. So what you're going to do now is just drag this over to the beginning double click on it again, and then hit stretch, and then same thing with this, hit stretch, and then make sure that stretch is turned back on right here in your playlist. So do that, and then the next thing I'm gonna do is drag this up to the top, turn that back on because it was muted, and I just want to make sure that everything's lined up. Yeah, that's good to go. So we're gonna drag this out to the second part, and next thing we're gonna do is click on our pattern list, drag in pattern 1, which is currently empty, and drop that right under the melody. Then you're going to right click at the 9th bar and just drag this over. Drag that all the way over here. So there we go. We now have, make sure that just this little red highlighted area only goes to the very beginning and end of each loop, like each side of the loop. So there we go, that's perfect. Just checking this thing. Okay, so that's good to go. Perfect. Okay, so now whatever is when you hit play and this is turned on because we're playing from the song, you can either choose to play the pattern or the song. So the song will play whatever is in your playlist, and the pattern will only change or play whatever is in this channel rack, like for whatever pattern you're making. So this is where we're gonna make the drums in a minute here, but as of right now, this red highlighted area, it's only gonna play what's in that red highlighted area, as long as that's been highlighted. So we're gonna be basing our drums and 808, everything initially in the beginning, around this loop right here, this section of the loop. So just make sure that's highlighted for now, and now we can move on to the drums. So we're just going to start sourcing sounds. I really love, I'm sure if you're watching this, you're probably familiar with Cody, the producer. Big shout out to him. I love his drums and his drum packs and everything. Use those in pretty much like every beat I make, honestly. There's always something from these packs in there. So we'll just start with hi-hats. Actually, that'll be the first thing. Want something a little bit of a lower pitch to begin with, and then this is how I set up my drums. So with the drums, you're just going to do the same thing that you do with your loops and everything. Just route them to however you want to set up your mixer is up to you. As you get more experience doing this, you'll find what is most comfortable for you personally, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. You just kind of got to like go in there and figure it out for yourself. But so that's our hi-hat right there, a closed hat. I'm gonna get an open hat. Okay, so one thing we're going to do right away here is click on the kick and then go over to this effects rack, click into that, go to Fruity Parametric EQ2, go to presets. All you do is click on that and then go click kick. And I'm going to right in the slot under that, I'm going to go to Sound Goodizer and click on the D preset, drag that down to about half. And then with the clap, I'm going to take the Sound Goodizer, same thing again, D, drag it down to half. Hi-hats I always make a bit quieter anyways, so I don't add the sound godizer onto that at all. So sound godizer just is like a form of, it's like compression, like dynamic enhancement basically from what I understand, but it makes everything that you put it on just sound brighter and especially a lot more fuller, just better sounding overall, like a more filled out sound is the best way I can explain it. So I want to make sure that I have those on the drums, and then I do want a snare for this as well, so I'll play the loop again. Do the same thing with the snare. And one thing too is like, as you go along, like, you know, doing this stuff, getting more practice, you'll figure out almost right away if you have regular sounds that you use in a lot of your beats. It won't take you long to kind of figure out what sounds sound good with what type of loops or melodies and what kind of things you want to add. You'll kind of just have like your own little go-to section of drums to pick out. Okay, so that's like the main thing there. Those are like the main basic drums. We might add some more stuff after, but we're gonna go ahead and open up this channel rack. You click view channel rack up here, then go to kick, right click on that, clone it, right click on the cloned one, go to replace, and then we're going to go to sampler. And then after that, I'm definitely gonna use the Zay 808 on this. So I'm gonna go up to, and this is just like the area on the side here, like is where you pick all your drum sounds and everything. This is where you want to have everything loaded up. So like here you can see my splice folder. All you do to get sounds in here in the first place is you would go to like your file manager down here if you're on Windows PC. Same thing for Mac. Obviously it's a little different, but you go into your file manager, file browser, whatever, and then you would go find whatever folder you want. Because obviously when you're downloading songs, wherever you're downloading them, there's going to be a folder, so you will just drag that folder from your file manager into the side here. It'll make this little thing, then you can click in there and basically use this as a file manager and just drag stuff straight out of you know, whatever folder you have, but you just don't have to go to your desktop to do it. You can do it that way, but obviously it's a lot longer and less efficient. So you want to have everything set up here so you can just do that really simple. So I'm going to go to 808s in this drum kit right here. Click this one and drag it into the sampler. So now this is loaded in here. If I click on this, and then you'll hear that 808. So the first thing, the thing about 808s that is super, super important is tuning. So like I mentioned before, this loop is in F sharp minor and the BPM is 130. So click on the 808 again and then go to this envelope and instrument settings right here. What you're going to want to do is drag all these knobs down completely, and then this hold knob you want to drag that all the way up. So that just makes it so that when you play your 808, I'll show you in the piano roll in a minute here, but it just makes it so that you can actually choose like the length of your 808. It gives you more control over the 808 sample that you're using. So because this is an F sharp, right now the root note of this is another thing. This is how you tune your 808. So you want the 808 to have the same sample range and pitch as the sample that we're using. So you go from, right now it's on C, we want it to be on F sharp. So all you do for that is just right click on whatever note you want to find, like set it to a certain key, and we are doing this like it's F sharp. So actually what I'm going to do is, because it started out in the 5th octave, I might, actually no, I'll leave it in the 5th octave here. So these are your octave separators. Anyone who has any kind of knowledge of, you know, if you ever took piano lessons at some point in your life, you kind of know what an octave is or did music of any kind. So yeah, now our 808 is going to be in tune with the sample. So it's not going to sound all weird when you put it down. I'm going to click this normalize thing in the sample settings, and then that's it. I will change the color on this because I like to color code my stuff sometimes. And then basically what you're going to want to do is make sure that this is selected, go back into the mixer again, and then just route it. And then for the effects that we're going to be putting on this 808, just to give it a bit of enhancement, make it punch through the mix and just really loud and full, we're going to go to this Fruity Wave Shaper. And then after you load that up, drag this up to about here is like kind of where you want to have it set. And then that's good. And then I'm also going to add another Fruity Parametric EQ right there. I'm not going to do anything with it for now, but we'll leave that there for later. Add this Fruity Limiter. So this is for like sidechaining, which is just for, you know, when you layer your kicks and 808s, you still want to be able to hear the kick, and you don't want to have so much bass in your mix that it's super distorted. So this will just turn, if you layer your kicks and 808s, whenever the kick hits, the 808 volume will dip to compensate for that, so you can still hear the kick, and the MIDI or the mix is actually clean and not all muddy and everything. So, man, I'm stuttering today, y'all. I'm bad tired. Okay. Anyways, so for this, I'm just gonna set up the settings right now. Fruity Limiter. Open this up, go to compression, click that. This threshold, drag it down to like -5 decibels. The compression ratio, drag that up to, and you can see everything in the top left corner here as I'm adjusting this knob. So right now it's at, I bumped it up to, you know, it was at 3.8 before. So I want to make sure it's at 4 to 0 to 1 is the ratio I usually use. This is another thing where, like, depending on how you mix beats, it's kind of up to your preference. I'm just showing you guys what I do normally on a regular basis for all this stuff. I'm also going to grab this release knob and drag that down to 72.08 milliseconds. So yeah, now everything's set up here, good to go. And yeah, that's basically all we need right now to really get started with our drums. So I'm going to do Control Scroll to zoom in on this a little bit. Delete that one because we don't need it. That's where our intro part is. Oh, and another thing I want to do really quick before we get into drums is click on the sample mixer chain. And we're going to load up another Fruity Parametric EQ. And then go to presets, go to this one right here. Click on that, and then go to the sample. So you notice these red highlighted areas are where the main frequencies are for the loop that you're putting. We're going to want to drag this frequency envelope to, on the low end, we're going to cut off everything, you know, less than 100 kilohertz, so that we leave room for the 808 and the bass and all that stuff. After, in this top end, we're just going to drag that down to 10,000 kilohertz probably. Actually, we'll probably... Yeah, like right between 5 and 10. So that will leave room for vocals and some of the hi-hats and stuff in the top end of the mix. Because, you know, if you're going to be selling beats to different artists and stuff, you definitely want to have them actually be able to record on a beat, and you need to create the space for that to happen. So usually when you're mixing vocals anyways, you're going to be boosting the frequencies in this range at least anyways, up there. So that's why we do that. And we're going to go ahead and drop this down the main volume. We're going to level this at -5 decibels, about there. Okay, so that is like, that's set now. And, okay, so now we're going to be making the drums, right? Pattern 1, open the mixer track, and I am first off going to kind of like, what you're going to want to do is right click on the hi-hats and then go fill each 2 steps. That's usually what I do. It's just nice and easy to get started with everything, and I'm just going to, from there, right click again, go to the piano roll, and then this is just like where we're going to make our hi-hat pattern. So going in here, actually might bump the BPM up a little bit for this beat. So that's why we double clicked and hit stretch, because we don't want to change the pitch of the sample or have any of the sounds come out really weird. because we want to stretch the sample to whatever BPM that we're using. So I'm going to bump this up to 140, and then actually maybe 135. There we go. Okay. This also is like where you can select whatever sample that you want to edit in the piano roll. Like I said before, though, we're just doing hi-hats right now, so I'm going to go ahead and start getting into that. Okay, so there we go. That's like the first half of the hi-hats right there. I'm going to delete these. And then, so just delete those by right-clicking. Select this highlight tool. Highlight all these. Click this again. And then hold down the shift key, click on this, and just drag it all the way over and start that first hi-hat on this set point. So we start on the first bar before. This is a 5-bar pattern, so we want to put that on the third just to fill it all out. And now we're going to get something that sounds like this. Okay, so those are hi-hats right there. The main hats, the closed ones, so we're probably going to add the clap. Actually, no, we're going to do the 808 next. So right-click 808, go to piano roll. And this, now you have to find, like, our 808 samples in tune, but you want to try and find the note that's going to sound proper with the sample as like a bass line. So I'll kind of show you what I mean. You can pretty much hear it right away. So we're going to drag or make this a little bigger. And I usually like to start making my 808s higher just so I can really hear the notes that I'm hitting. And then I'll drop it down an octave after so it just, you know, sounds like an actual 808. Okay, so F sharp should be like, you see how if I highlight those and then drag them up to like B, like it just doesn't sound right with the sample, but if I drag it down to F sharp, you know, it sounds proper, like you can just hear that already in the mix there. So yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and lay out this 808 pattern. Turn on the metronome for that, usually for just like really precise timing. You can use hi-hats for referencing your timing because, I mean, drums are a pattern, right? But I usually use the metronome most of the time for setting that stuff up. Bump this up an octave again. so I'm just going to drag this around. Okay, so we're going to highlight this whole thing. I might make a second half to this 808 pattern just so it doesn't get super repetitive, but for now I'm just going to drop it down a couple of octaves and start filling out the rest of the drums, making kind of like a full beat here. So once I drop it down an octave, you'll hear a huge difference. I'll drop it down one more even. And I'm probably going to highlight this again. So this I'm gonna take, I'll bump it back up one more octave, then hold shift, drag it over, and so now we have, if we go back to the playlist, you know, there's like a whole 8 bars or 9 bars for the pattern. So yeah, now we're just gonna make a couple minor edits on this 808 pattern, just switch it up, give it a little bit of a diversity. So we'll listen to what we got here again. I'm just gonna mute the sample for now and listen to this. So yeah, that's a little more simple. Then just highlight this whole thing again, drag it down an octave, and then make sure that we're starting from the start. So now we're going to go to the 808 effects here. So this one right here, you want to drag that up to about plus 6 decibels and then tighten that up to about 35%, and it'll sound like this. And then the last thing you want to do really for the 808 is go to slot 3, go to Fruity Fast Disc, open up. This is a distortion plugin. If I play this with this turned up all the way, this is what it sounds like, which is obviously kind of weird. So you want to go to presets, open that up, go down, click warmth, and then you want to drag this knob and the sub bus down to like 10% and leave it about there, and we'll come back to this limiter after. For now, we're actually just going to turn it off until we start putting the kick into the beat. So No, this is what we have for the pattern so far. Obviously, the first half of the drums is only for these first few bars, and I'll show you how we get around that in a minute. But for now, we're going to go open the channel rack again and start laying down the rest of these drums here. So yeah, we're gonna drag this back to the very beginning, and actually an even easier way to do this now would be to, so this highlighted area, go ahead and click that again, drag it down, make sure that it's gone, and then we're gonna highlight both these, the drum pattern and the original loop. Drag the set point back to the beginning, drag those back to the beginning, mute that intro melody, and then we'll just mess around with it here so that we can control the set point, like with this when we're laying down our pattern and everything. So hit the space bar to play. Another thing we want to do in this mixer track is all your just regular drum sounds, like hi-hats and everything. This knob here, it says stereo separation. Drag that all the way to 100% separated, so it's mono for the kick, clap, snare, and hi-hats, but 808 we'll just leave alone for now. And okay, so I'm going to try and wrap the rest of this up quickly because I feel like this has been going for a while, and I do want it to be like a quick tutorial for the most part. I mean, yeah, we're already at like half an hour. It's a little more in depth because it is like a beginner tutorial, so I'm kind of going through everything pretty slowly, but yeah, I'll just kind of try and show you guys the rest quick here. I'll probably cut some of this after and mess around with it. But yeah, this is also like the first beat making video that I'm making, so I don't know, we'll just see how it goes. Just winging it, man. Okay, so we got our snare down. I might actually add like some percussion stuff in here too, potentially. So we're going to go to, where is it? Okay, yeah, we're going to pick one of these perk sounds. So I'm actually just going to mute these. You can mute things from the mixer like this, or from the channel rack. You can mute whatever samples are playing. So I'm just going to eat everything for now. Set the 808, and then I'm going to pick which percussion I want to use. This one sounds good. Drag that in, and then route that. Turn it to mono. So I can use that too. like a kick pattern to go along with the rest of this. Okay, so that's nice and easy. That right here is kind of like the first section, or like the first part of that kick pattern. So we're gonna go to the piano roll for the kick, highlight these, and drag this over right here. So it's at the beginning of 3, and then it'll sound like this. And I'm just gonna add like this little thing at the end. Okay, so now we're turning the 808 back on, go back to the mixer, click on kick, and then we're going to go, after you've selected the kick, this bottom arrow here on the 808, you're going to right click that and go sidechain to this track. So now this is sidechained. I explained sidechaining earlier in this video. We're going to turn on this limiter, double click it, and then play it. Okay, so that's like all set up there. I think the last thing we're going to do is we're going to need those. We need pretty much everything except for the hi-hats, kick, and open hat. We'll leave the pop on too. We're going to put the open hats down, and then we're going to do some stuff with the hi-hats really quick that'll show you guys. Down. We're going to start leveling these out as well. The kick we're going to drag down to like negative 1.5 decibels. Clap will do negative 2.5. The snare here, we're going to drop that down to like 3. The hi-hats, the main ones, will just leave around like 4 for now. We'll turn this percussion down to 3. And then this will be 3. No, we'll do 4.5. It's pretty harsh and like intense. I might take some of the top end out of that. I'm actually going to do that. So I'll open parametric EQ, go to this setting right here. Oh, sorry. This one right here. So leave that alone. So we're actually, see how it's really playing the top end there? Whenever I play the beat, you really hear that open hi-hat in the top end. So I'm just going to go and drop some of that off. Not too much, because then it's not really going to sound like a drum anymore. It's not going to sound like a proper hi-hat, but just a little bit, and then it'll probably sound a bit less harsh, which is kind of what I'm aiming for, so we'll check that. Harsh. Okay, so like you hear the difference here if I turn this off. Yeah, I like that. That's a lot nicer to me. So we'll go back to the playlist here, and open the channel rack, and we're just going to unmute the snare and the perk. And go to piano roll for the hi-hats again. So what we're going to do, and especially if you're watching this video with headphones, you'll really notice it, but we're just going to pan some of these hi-hat rolls. You get some like really cool effect, and you'll notice it particularly when wearing headphones or listening through headphones. So if you're not currently wearing headphones, I would definitely recommend doing that for this next part. And just so you can actually like hear what I'm talking about. You can hear it through speakers too, maybe, but it all depends on what you're using. If you're listening to this through a pair of studio monitors like I have here on either side of me, then you'll be able to notice it a lot better than just standard laptop speakers. So I recommend that you have headphones or some kind of professional mixing equipment so you can like hear this properly. But if you can't, it's not a big deal. I'm still going to show you how to do it. Basically, all we're doing is like this first hi-hat roll here. We're going to take that and just kind of pan it between the left and right, left and right speaker per se. So it just kind of makes the song or the beat sound like it has more, like it's wider, like there's more levels to it. It gives it almost like a shape, like something you can, because it's like, oh, I hear it over here and I hear it over there, or like I hear it kind of like from both sides. It's a lot easier to explain by actually showing you. So you're going to highlight that those first notes of the roll there, and then go to note pan. See, this is like our control right here. It says that we are, if you hover your cursor over it, it'll tell you up in the top left corner here again to what degree it's panned. So that's without touching it, right? So I'm actually going to take this and bump that way up to the right, 50%, and then drop this one down. I'm actually going to do it like this. So I'll do it up to the right again, but just like 30%. You'll hear a difference. I might actually bump this up a little bit more. I'll bump them all up to 50, or around 50. And then for the second roll, we're going to do the same thing, but instead we're going to pan that one left, and then that one right, and then this one left again. So this will sound like pretty cool, actually. And then for this roll here, we'll do it like this, pan these left, pan that right. And there we go. So it just makes the hi-hats a lot more interesting to listen to, honestly, as a whole. And then I'm actually going to delete these because they don't have all the volume controls that we just put down, or sorry, pan controls. Highlight this again, and then shift, drag it over. There we go. Make sure it's on the third, and then the whole thing is going to have, like, if you look at this control tab down here, they're all panned the same through the pattern, so it's like an actual pattern now. I'll go ahead and turn that control back to velocity, which is essentially more or less how I'll explain it. For now, is just the volume of each note that you put down. And these are our hi-hats now. Okay, so that's like pretty much everything that we really need for that beat. So like I said, this is supposed to be a relatively simple beat. I did go pretty in depth with it for the most part. Obviously there's probably a few things that you guys still have questions with, because like I said, this beat making thing is geared a lot more towards producers who are like just brand new at it, who haven't done it before, who have like no experience at all. So this is more so for you guys. If you have more questions about anything, obviously you can like feel free to DM me on any of my social media, whatever's easier for you, or leave me a comment, whatever. Email me, Salji. All the info is on my channel, so These are just like a couple effects. Actually, my producer tag and a couple effects that I put in everything. I'm not going to talk about producer tags today though, because I feel like a lot of this stuff you guys, like, some people might not have any idea like about anything that has anything to do with producing or making music, but I feel like a lot of you watching this video will. I want to have stuff in here for the people who really don't know what they're doing at all and also for those of you who kind of know a little bit of what's going on with everything but just aren't really sure on the specifics. So this beat's ready to be arranged now, so what we're going to do for that is we're actually going to go back to the mixer, and this effect that we applied, which is really just tightening the envelope, like I said, creating space in the mix. On this first sample, we're going to do that for the same way on this second sample. So bump this low end to 100, and then this between 5 and 10,000. So there we go, that's good. And the second thing we're going to do with this is actually another parametric EQ, and we're just going to go to this old telephone. So this will actually, if I mute these two and just have this intro melody playing with this old telephone effect, this is what it sounds like. And then if I turn the telephone off, so what we're going to do is have that on. Actually, we'll leave it off for now. I'll show you what we'll do with that after. And we're going to go to the pattern tab, click on this pattern. So what I'm going to do is just clone it first of all, so that pattern 2, if I drag that in, is the exact same as pattern 1. Pattern 1 is like the pattern that we built the pattern, like the drum pattern and everything in, so I want to keep that just in case I want to do some like major edits and change things around after. The thing about having all your sounds in one pattern is it's just easy to see how everything blends together when you're initially creating it, but I want to have even more control over those individual patterns, like for hi-hats and everything like that. So what I'm going to do is this pattern 2, I'm going to hit split by channel. This here will break everything up. So I'm going to take the hi-hats. Those are closed hats, open hats, the clap, and then under that I will put the snare. Actually, I'll drag the clap and snare down. I'll do percussion after the open hat. I just have a really particular way of laying this stuff out, so yeah, that's what I'm doing. Is drag these out so they're all kind of aligned. The only one that won't be fully aligned is the 808 pattern. Okay, so now we have hi-hats, open hats, percussion, clap, and snare. So the last thing we need is the kick and the 808. So I'll put the kick right there, 808 goes there, and then I'm going to highlight these, Control B to copy them over, then highlight this whole chunk, Control B over that a few times. And then for the intro, if you look at the timestamp here, so I want to start actually bringing the full beat around 30 seconds, so somewhere around here. So after these first couple bars is where I'm going to do that. So I'm going to drag this second main melody right there, and I am going to delete these 3, and this is where our beat is actually going to fully come in. In the meantime, I'm going to mute all of these. You can definitely delete the 808 because we don't want the 808 playing at the beginning of the beat at all. Same with the kick. The kick's actually going to come in after the 808. So I'm going to delete those because this was like how you lay out your song and arrange it, and it shows how everything's going to be played. We'll delete this pattern one. We don't need that there. So I'm just going to play it and kind of decide when to start bringing everything in. Just going to have a nice intro at the beginning here. Yeah, so up to that first part, probably start bringing in the hi-hats. like the drums are gonna go for like a little build up. Right here is like the beats. I'm gonna drag my producer tag down in here. I'll show you that muted for now. I can move these all like way up actually. So just line that up. Boom, 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 done. There we go. So that's kind of how the progression's gonna go. I mean, I want to have a little bit of drums in the beginning, but not too many like things clashing or going on, like not too complicated there. Just kind of like, you know, nice and easy to start out with. This is still like a pretty simple beat when it comes down to it. So we're gonna go here, kind of right before the drop, and usually plug my ticket right around here. So what I'm gonna do is cut, go to that this cutting tool up here, go right on the 16th bar, cut those all out, and then we are going to right click and just delete those after selecting this tool. Then the producer tag will take or play, and then we will, like, the beat will come in and everything will drop. But I just want to clean up this intro for a minute. So I'm going to turn this radio effect back on. What I'm going to do is right click on this knob and then do create automation clip. So we're going to rename this as intro radio, and then we will also color that same as the intro part. So that's nice and easy. So we're gonna go in here, and we want this. This is just like a control for like how much of that radio effect we want at any given time. So right now it's on full. I want it to slowly taper off right before the drop there. So what I'm gonna do is right click right here, make a control point, and drag that down right there. And then so this will kind of this will kind of, it'll start out with the radio effect really intense, and it'll slowly taper off to the point where the beat's going to drop, and then everything will be, you know, back. Nothing's going to be filtered. Everything will be fully, like, the sound will be there again. That filter will be gone, and then it just makes a nice dynamic so that it just adds more personality to the beat, honestly. So I'm gonna hit play. I'm actually gonna bump this up to the point, because I don't want it to roll off too soon. I want it to start rolling off more so in the second part than the first part. So I bumped that envelope up to 30%. So you'll hear what happens. I'm gonna actually go and play that fully. So for this part of the beat, after the beat drops, so I actually want to take that snare out. I'm gonna chop a few of these out in the beginning first part of the beat just to make it, just to give it some more dynamic, more personality. Once again, that's the whole purpose of that. So, yeah, that's pretty much taken care of. There's not really too much to do with this. I might change how the hi-hats come in, but yeah, I'm gonna take that open hat out for a minute, and then also the clap. So we're just gonna have the hi-hats and the clap going for this first part, and with the 808, then we're gonna bring everything else in after, and then we'll bring in the kick, and then we'll probably have like a bridge part or something in there too. So I'm going to right click that, bump that out a bunch more times with Control B, and so yeah, I'm gonna go back to the beginning here. I'm just gonna show you how the beat sounds as it is right now. That's what we got. so far. I'm actually digging that. The only thing that really stuck out to me that I don't really like is like if I play the beat from like here, yeah, like right here. So you'll see what I mean. We're gonna click on, go to patterns again, click on the 808, go to the piano roll, go up here, click the 808. So now we're looking at our 808 pattern again. So right here. So there'd be a better way to make this flow. It'd be like. This will sound better. Perfect. So yeah, the 808, I just wanted to make a little adjustment to that pattern. I think this is going to sound a lot better than what we had before. And yeah, it just sounded like a little bit weird for some reason. But it's not like it was bad necessarily, it's just I didn't really like the way the pattern was laid out. It was fine, but it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't quite hitting right for me. It just wasn't like, it sounded a little bit too muddy and like all over the place instead of nice, smooth, and bouncy. 808s, definitely don't overcomplicate your 808s. I know I freaking do that all the time, man. Like, I always have to rein myself in when it comes to the 808s because I get so carried away. But, yeah, it's 808s really can't be overdone too much, or else it's too much going on in the beat. It makes it hard to like do anything else on it other than just listen to it. If you're gonna rap on it or something, it's just too much, and you notice that pretty quickly. So yeah. So after this, I would say. So this is where we're going to have our kind of bridge part, so I'm going to delete the 808 here. So turn this back on for a minute. So we're going to take the kick out to that first part. Actually, no, we're not going to do that. That's like too soon. So we're just going to do like right there. And cut this last part out. Maybe we'll see. Yeah, that'll sound dumb. Okay, so we're going to take this sword effect and drop it in like right here. Double click on that, make sure it's set to stretch, and then I'm just gonna take this cutting tool, control zoom in here, cut that, delete that after selecting this, and we're just going to click that and stretch it over here so that you see this waveform, it kind of lines up right when the beat comes in. And then we have this fruity reverb with the cathedral reverb effect or preset on there, sorry. And then yeah, so we have those two. What I'm gonna do is just delete all these, and then for these first where these first two bars are, or first two 808 pattern things are, select all that, and we're just going to shift, click, drag everything over, and then line it up right at the beginning. So we bring the beat back right the same way as we did in the beginning of the song, and then we're going to, yeah, so that's the first two, and then after that, see we have, that's all the same. So I'm just going to take everything from this last one, and then shift click again, drag it, move it over, and then I will turn this main melody back on, delete it for this part, and this right here I'm actually going to drag so for that intro filter, because we're using the intro melody as the bridge melody as well. So what I'm going to do is right click, make a control point here on 49, and then make a control point here and here, drag this all the way, drag this over first of all, so it starts there. That's when the filter will cut back in, as you'll hear here in this transition. So it's a pretty abrupt change. This will filter out right again here, and then we'll hear this knife sound that I use as a transition a lot of my beats. And the one thing I'm gonna switch in this is actually I'm just gonna cut like half these hi-hats out at the beginning for this second, just to give it like a bit more, make it a bit more interesting. Also, this is a really abrupt change with that melody because of the filter, so the last thing that we're really going to add to this beat is just a transition effect. So I'm going to go back to the drum kit here that I was using before, and kind of just listen. I really like that transport effect. I think I've used that before a few times, so I'm just going to route that right next to the other couple effects we have here, bump this down, and throw the same reverb on, a fruity reverb too, go to cathedral, and then level that out around, probably, yeah, we'll do 3.5 for this. Oh, and then the last thing we're also going to do is we're going to go to the master mixer chain, and we're going to open a fruity soft clipper and just leave that there so we can mess around with you know, some of the just like overall like volume, make sure that everything's like, nothing's, you know, I don't want sounds peaking too much or getting out of control. Also just balance out some of those frequencies. So if you were going to ask me, honestly, in really in-depth terms, what the soft clipper does, I couldn't tell you. I'll just be straight up about that right now. But it does, it helps your beats, man. It helps your beats, makes them sound better. So after you've done all the raw mixing this way, and, you know, kind of leveled everything out the way that you want it to be leveled, so go ahead and throw that soft clipper on there and then call it a day. Just kidding. You should actually be trying to figure out what that thing does. I'm pretty, like, I remember I did actually look into it more in depth at one point, but it's just been a minute, so I won't even front. I totally don't remember right now, but it's all G. I'm just gonna leave that on now. And we're good there, so we have that transport effect routed. So what I'm going to do with this is pretty much the same thing with the knife. I'm just going to double click it, make sure it's stretched out. It's stretched, boom. Well, it's not stretched yet, it's ready to be stretched though. So we're just going to figure out how to make this into a clean transition from the main part here into like that bridge. So I'm just going to boost the pitch up just a little bit so it doesn't sound so low and distorted. Kick back in, it just gives it that that nice little I don't know, it's just such a small thing. Like there's so many small things, and I feel like I'm yelling now because the volume's so low. No, I feel like there's so many small things when it comes to making beats. It's nothing crazy, but small suggestions sometimes can totally change the way that the beat sounds. So, all in all, right now that beat's at about 207. So ideally, what I would probably do is just repeat this. Drop another bridge to the outro there. Which I guess I'll do right now just to wrap everything up full circle. Oh, this video is gonna be so long, bro. So long. But whatever. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of skip to the end here, probably, because all I'm doing really is just the exact same thing that we just did, just without some of those effects. Probably I'm not gonna drop over those transition effects because I don't want to overuse those. No way either. I might just change. I might not even use the filter in that second part. I'll probably just leave it. Switch it up a little bit more without doing the same thing every time. So, yeah, I'm going to take this and drag that over here. Sometimes just having the drums cut is enough of an accent on its own without any added effects or anything like that. So I'm just going to drag these out over here. And so now we have a beat that is about 3 minutes long. So after that, I'm just going to take this intro part again, make it the outro, and that'll bring us to about 3:30, which is a perfect time to start cutting off the beat. So I'll take this beginning first part from there and just drop that into the last part of the beat. So the end of the beat's gonna sound like this. I might actually drag this over again one time at the very just for fun, I'm gonna drop another into I love this effect, so yeah, we'll do that. And the last thing we need to do is go to the mixer master chain, click on this knob here, right click on that, go to create automation clip. So now you have the master volume, which we're going to control at the end just to make it fade out really nice and simple. And yeah, we're just gonna run that, and boom, we have a full complete beat right here. Only thing I need to do is just right click and Control Z to undo. down, and then this is level this out. We're just gonna take this, level it up in this top corner here. This should be about 85. Yeah, I hate when it does that. Okay, rip. We're just gonna go to create automation clip, and we are going to bring, no, there we go. Bring that forward. There we go. That is good here. So we're drop this down. This is just like the master volume control, yada yada, which we're going to drop right here at the end, the last few bars, right here, and then drop that down, and then drop that down so it's at 0, so it just fades off really nice. There we go. And yeah, everything cuts off there. So this is how the end of the beat's gonna sound. And then it restarts. So yeah, that's actually gonna be it for this one, guys. That is this beat tutorial right here. Definitely gonna probably tighten these up in the future. Like I said, I wanted to get a lot of stuff in there for the beginners, like people who have like no idea about anything with producing. If you have never touched FL Studio before or any other DAW or anything like that, like if this is your first kind of foray into audio production, then this video is definitely geared more towards you. But I'm sure that there's probably maybe a few things in here that could help people that have been at it for a while as well. And of course, if you guys are watching this and you yourselves have any tips for me or anything like that, feel free to throw my way things that you recommend or that have worked really well for you when you're producing your beats, because I'm definitely always open to feedback of any kind, and I'm always trying to improve. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video. It really means a lot. I really hope you learned something from it, and if there's any other specific things that you want to know in the future, definitely let me know, and I can look into that for you, and we can probably take care of that. Like I could probably teach that to you. So yeah, again, thank you guys so much. I'm going to end this video now, and I will just play the full beat for you, and yeah, that's pretty much it for today. So yeah, one last time, really big thank you to you guys, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.